Hi, Professor Thomas and friend. My name is Adama Yen-ura, and today I'm gonna present about global governance and international law. I will bring the article named International Law and the Laws of War by Sean H. Quartat to explain, and the case study of World War I to explain too. So, what is international law? International law is the set of rules that states or countries follow in dealing with each other. What is law of war? The law of war is the component of international law that regulates the conditions for war, in Latin known as jus ad bellum, and the conduct of warring parties, in Latin known as jus in bello. Laws of war define sovereignty and nationhood, states and territories, occupation, and other critical terms of international law. The photo at the right is the first Yen-ura Convention governing the sick and wounded members of armed forces was signed in 1864. Okay, I will explain article's main argument briefly. This article examines international efforts to curb states' war-making prerogatives. In the second half of the long 19th century, it captures new humanitarian sentiments circulating in transnational society that propel the movements to codify the laws of war and create permanent international institutions for their implementation. The article focuses specifically on the societal efforts that led to the passage of the Geneva Convention in 1864 and the work at the two Hague Conferences in 1899 and 1907. These movements set ethical precedents in international law as well as patterns of intergovernmental cooperation that have endured to the present day. International humanitarian law source in World War I. The first source is the Geneva Model, which came from Geneva Convention in 1864 and 1906. The second source is the Hague Model, which came from Hague Conferences in 1899 and 1907. The Hague Model, three legal normative complexes of Hague Land Warfare Convention. The Hague Model is the most important laws of war during the First World War I. It encompasses three legal normative complexes. The first defines the regular combatants, soldiers, the irregular combatants, guerrillas, and the non-combatant civilian population. From this, there also resulted a special legal and protective status for those regular soldiers taken prisoner by the enemy. With regard to treatment of those injured and wounded, reference was made to the Geneva Convention, according to which prisoners were to be protected and looked after. The second normative complex limited the choice of warfare agents to those harmful to the enemy. Moreover, it concerned questions of the legitimate besieging and firing upon enemy territory. In this case, it was prohibited to engender unnecessary suffering, to employ toxic materials, to kill defenseless foes, to destroy enemy property unnecessarily, and also to fire upon undefended locations. The third normative complex dealt with the conduct of occupying powers in occupied territories. Here the concern was in particular to protect the civilian population from any arbitrariness and violence. It was forbidden to loot, deport, collectively punish, and arbitrarily execute civilians, among other actions. In conclusion of the article, It said that in the second half of the long 19th century, through negotiated rules and regulations, international law and its attendant institutions enter into the international order dominated by sovereign states, unequal power, and conflicts of interest. Debates about the nature and extent of war making were central to this new order, which increasingly brought state authorities into formal consultations to address their areas of mutual concern, preceded by the Geneva Conference and other international law writing endeavors. The Hague Conferences were emblematic of these changes and eventually followed by all manner of civil society groups, advocates of peace, and diverse professional and international organizations pursuing their own agendas, reflecting and promoting notions circulating far and wide about the promises of science to provide rules for the betterment of human society. These conferences codified the laws of war for land and sea and sought arbitrary mechanisms to ensure peace among nations. Beset by contradictions, neither law nor civil society action could ultimately halt the steps to war. In July and August 1914, from the perspective of law, the war began ominously. Germany violated the neutrality of Belgium, and Britain dropped the principle of effective blockade and expanded its contraband list beyond anything envisioned in international law. For the first several years of the war, however, much of the Geneva Convention remained in force. Cases of flagrant violence against prisoners increased after 1916, mostly at the local level. All belligerents appealed to the Hague when it served their interests. Still, the potential of law for the future was not lost on contemporaries. Writing in 1917, in the depth of war, the British international lawyer Thomas Barclay lamented how belligerent governments had modified and even torn up many legal documents, but he added with hopeful caution the present war, fortunately for mankind, is no criterion of the ultimate scope of human wisdom. What is challenging about this article? The rules and the laws of war continue to change through the transition of each era. Now say the possibility that the total war will break out is very low. However, humanity still faces other threats such as nuclear power. Question for this article and presentation is the law of war still necessary nowadays in the world that's full of cooperation? There are some vocabulary that I want to let you know. The first is general law, or other meaning is codified law. The territorial law of a country. It consists of all persons, things, acts, and events within the territory of a country which are governed by it. General law consists of those legal rules of which the courts take judicial notice. Second, customary law, the other known as uncodified law. The law consisting of customs that are accepted as legal requirements or obligatory rules of conduct, practices, and beliefs that are so vital and intrinsic a part of a social and economic system that they are treated as if they were laws. Third, just at bellum or the right to war is a set of criteria that are to be consulted before engaging in war in order to determine whether entering into war is permissible, that is, whether it is a just war. Fourth, just in bello or justice in war is the law that governs the way in which warfare is conducted. It is independent from questions about the justification or reason for war or its prevention covered by just ad bellum. Fifth, arbitration is a private process where disputing parties agree that one or several individuals can make a decision about the dispute after receiving evidence and hearing arguments. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Thank you.